winter solstice, knowing that, okay, now. Summer solstice, it's like, now
We are live now. This is a monthly meeting of the Parks Recreation Harbor Advisory Committee. I'm Director Tracy Willett, Parks and Recreation. Typically, you'd have a chair conducting this meeting this evening, and we'll get to that in a minute on the agenda. But as we often do, we have some new members. Let's go around the table and introduce yourselves. I'm going to go to my right.
Ryan Robbins, committee member.
Jennifer Potter, board member, community member.
Brianna Woodward, community member.
Rich Trott, community member.
Susan Floon, I am the council liaison.
Suzette Furrow, community member.
And again, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Councilor Bloom, for joining us this afternoon. Probably a few meetings in your week that you've got to check off and attend, so. The first item is a review of December minutes. I will tell you that the person running the audio visual at the December meeting kind of failed at the audio part of that. So we aren't able to have minutes for you or notes for you this evening. Fortunately, that same guy is not running the audio tonight, so you should be able to hear. We'll have minutes. Hopefully we can figure out a way to come up with something for the record for December, as well as have notes for tonight. So have nothing for you for that. The next item is for the group to elect a chair, as you do each year. We started doing this. I'm going to look at you, Mr. Robbins. I believe it's 2 or 3 years ago anyway, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yes.
Most, if not all, advisory committees have a person that serves as the chair. For this particular group, it's essentially to oversee the meetings each month. It's to communicate with us as staff if there are particular items that you'd like included on the agenda with staff. MC John, sorry. Very good. We are just at the point of electing a chair for the committee. There's 6 of you here tonight, so we're good. So anyway, we were going through that. It's not, I don't believe it's a real labor intensive task. It's essentially to be the representative of you all as a group. If there's particular items you would like staff to come back to you with, it's in the role of the chair, but it's essentially to run the meetings each month and keep these in order. I'm gonna look at you, sir. You've done it before. Not a hugely labor intensive task, but anyway. So at this point, it's up to you all to either volunteer yourselves or if one person in particular, everybody agrees, that's fine too, but I'm gonna stop talking and let you all decide from there.
I'll throw my hat in the ring.
Okay, Ryan Robbins. Anybody else?
Well, Ryan Robbins.
Ryan Robbins.
All in favor?
Yeah.
We just passed the vote.
Do I need to pick up this paper for this?
We just passed the vote.
All right. Mr. Robbins will be chair of your Harbor Advisory Committee for your calendar year. Thank you, Scott.
Because the other time we did it, we never really, I was like on there for like 2 or 3.
Well, you were on when I first joined.
Yeah.
And then Kim just did it, right?
Like British Parliament, when you guys are dissatisfied.
That went on that evening, so yeah. Appreciate you all that do it, Ryan. So I'll turn it over to you.
All right. So, review of facilities master plan and project recommendation.
So each January, last couple of Januaries, what we try to do with you folks is go through our facility map. I apologize, push back from the table. On our BangorParksandRec.com, I believe it's also on the city's website, facilities master plan that we completed in 2021. And we've been trying as best we can to keep somewhat on task with that plan. And as well as the page I shared with you also budget and a capital request each year, equipment needs essentially we have for the city. So we just kind of go through that with you, have a discussion with you. We'll continue to be on track versus, there's a particular area you'd like us to focus on. What I would do first with you is, John, I need to. There's a short, there's a midterm.
Yeah.
So let me go down through the list and kind of go through what we've been trying to accomplish. Let's start with the short-term list. Cascade Park, we have focused on, some capital requests for funding. Completed is a master plan for the park that's also on our website as well. Click over here. Let's see. So Cascade Park, we are in the process of trying to initiate with the Park Service, registering as a historic place. That starts with a state process and in all candor. We haven't been able to dedicate as much time as we hope, but we continue to work on that. The master plan we did get done, that is completed. And you'll see identified in the capital plan, that single sheet capital plan, an engineering and design for Cascade Park. That's what we're working on now. Cascade Park is one of those signature parks here in the city. Significant amount of history of the park. Certainly it's well attended and utilized virtually year round. It's connectivity to the amenities over there, the connectivity to Saxel Park up on the Dorothea Dix property. And then you can continue to connect through East Main Community College, eventually by trail, and up over Essex Woods. So important amenity for us. We are currently working with our engineering division to work on the engineering design portion, which was the next step identified in the master plan. That will include updating the waters, the park circulation. I will tell you that we have, and this will be good information for you all to have if you get asked in the spring. We have a significant leaking issue at Cascade right now, which we aren't able to run the fountain consistently as we have in the past. We try to turn it on for specific events, primarily wedding events. It's a very popular destination for wedding events or other weekend events that folks look for the fountain to be used. But as far as it running daily, we've really had to scale back on that because of the leak. So that talks about Cascade. Dakin Pool, we have had a couple of meetings with a group called what's left of the Friends of Dakin Pool. That group was started back probably in the neighborhood of 15 to 17 years ago. We're responsible for the building of the pool house that's there now. The group has wants to kind of wrap up its effort. They're minimal in numbers now. So what we've been doing with them, they do have some funding left, is working with that group to add some amenities over there. Maybe not necessarily a splash pad like you see here in the master plan, but maybe some sort of water feature and or adding some amenities for shade, play, etc. So that work is going on with the Friends of Dakin. They have some funding left that they would like to share with the city to make those amenities happen and to kind of wrap up their efforts. We did recoat the inner liner of the pool a number of years ago. It was actually 2 years ago. It was part of a funding request, and you'll see a reference to it in your capital plan on the single sheet. Initially, we were hoping to do both Dakin and Panko at the same time. We did not have enough budget at the time for both pools, so we made a decision to do Dakin first. And we'll continue to ask for the additional funding for Panko later on. But Dakin did get done. The logic was Dakin was the older of the two pools. The surfacing inside Dakin at the time was in the neighborhood of 20 years old and needed the attention a little bit more than Panko did, so we made the decision to take the time. You go to page 2 of the short-term list. Broad Street Park, what was formerly known as Gomez Park. We've had a couple of different iterations of plan there. We're now going down the path of perhaps using that space for some historical recognition along the stream, but nothing definitive yet. But we're still have a few ideas about that. At one time, we had thoughts of maybe moving the food trucks over there, but that hasn't really materialized yet. So that's still a work in progress at Broad Street. Hamlin, you will see us start to do some assessments of the rock retaining walls that are in the middle of the stream, both at Hamlin and Norumbega. And the decision has been made, let's resolve those issues, get that work done first before we really start to tackle anything on either Hamlin Parkway or Norumbega Parkway. And I say those on the assumption that everybody knows where those two places are. Okay. Condescate Stream Trail. If you've been on the trail lately, and actually if you go out there tonight, you will see we've added lighting down the trail from the county parking lot off of Court Street. We went as far as we practically could, given the terrain and ledge and other material that's in the ground. The digging down along that trail is challenging at best. Then we added some lighting at the end of the footbridge on both sides, and added lighting on the section of trail between the footbridge that's behind Penquist to where it comes out behind Eastern Fire Protection on Harlow Street. Just recently, this past fall, we added additional lighting at Gateway Park in the parking area. We coupled that while the contractor was there adding the improvements to 14th Street Extension. We reclaimed the pathway and the sidewalk around Gateway Park and added light fixtures there. So we'll continue to add lighting. We have funding available currently to add lighting as best we can along the trail. Likely we'll start to focus on some sections along Valley Avenue. Continuing with Condescate Stream Trail, the Bangor Noontime Rotary has committed to partnering with the city to make trailhead improvements and signage improvements along Condescate Stream Trail. So both financially and with volunteers. So that's a project we're working on with them. So some work is getting done along Condescate Stream Trail. And as you'll see, we've tried, I think we've had this discussion with a group before. We've tried as best we can to keep this as an active master plan. It's been a very valuable document for us, and hopefully for you all as a group, you can see that try to use it to identify projects going forward. The consultant that did the master plan for us led to this through community outreach, assessment of facilities. The dollar amounts that are associated with this were developed back when the plan was done in 2021. So certainly we try to take that into consideration when we identify projects in our capital plan. On the short-term list, we'll finish up. You'll see identified as Second Street Park. It's now called Talbot Park. Certainly the Y project changed our efforts over there. We did carve out about an acre near the play structure over there. What you don't necessarily see in this plan, and I'll mention now, we started in 2009 a process of identifying a play structure per year to replace. Wouldn't you know it, the lifespan of a typical play structure is 15 to 18 years. And we've come full circle. believe it or not, we have come full circle. So we currently have funding to replace the structure of Williams Park, which is over on Newbury and Hancock Streets. We were able to utilize community development block grant funding because of the low to moderate income neighborhood that's there. We're gonna start the circle again. Unless there's sentiment or advice that we should think otherwise. So using that logic, you will likely see us request funding to replace play structure at Talbot Park. It made sense to kind of hold off on that, and we may still hold off until the Y project is indeed done. From there, the next structure to replace, if I can recall off the top of my head, would be down east. We have a play structure down east. From the next one would be Bangor, I believe.
Are these structures similar in nature, meaning they're all similar in size and scope, or are they all different?
So it's a great question and a good question, and certainly for you also, to answer your question, we have done what was referred to as a 5 to 12 deposit structure, with the exception of Hayford Park. Hayford, we did a separate 2 to 5-year-old structure and a 5 to 12. Does not mean we need to keep doing that. And we're at the point with Williams, we get asked from time to time to do different things. So not opposed to having some feedback. Hey, instead of doing the typical 5 to 12 composite structure with the events all tied together, could we do maybe an interactive panel to the side, or a sensory panel, or I'm going to use the term accessible, but they make features now that are all inclusive. This would be a good opportunity to have that discussion now before we get too deep with the RFP process. If the composite structures that the direction we've been going works for everybody, then we'll keep doing that. We sometimes get in our, and we do the composite and try to include as many events as we can. When we have done the RFPs before, request for proposals, we make sure to include, here's what we want to make sure is included. 2 slides, some, what's referred to as tot swings, bucket belt swings. Make sure you have at least 3 ground level play events. We don't include roofing because roofing tips away from the total value of what you can include for other events. So we try to include as many what's referred to as play events as possible. Is that answering the question at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know if there was different sizes based upon the location and the volume of play that's being put on there. And the second part of that question is the age or the replacement level based upon usage, or just simply age? Meaning, is there one that is being overused that can be fast forwarded into your timeline of cycling versus one that has had very little use that maybe can be better utilized for a park that has way more usage? You know what I mean?
Well, sure, not gonna be interesting. So we'll take Williams first. Williams is age and wear and tear. So for example, we've got a climbing event at Williams that is worn and needs to be replaced. We've got some activity panels over there that are worn, need to be replaced. The swings are dated. The plan at Williams is to move the structure out of the trees. When we put it there however many years ago, the trees weren't nearly as large as they are now, and incorporate a whole new set of swings into it. So in Williams' example, it is indeed wear and tear and needs to be replaced. Could we get down the line? I'll use Bangor Gardens, for example. We could get to Bangor Gardens, and yes, typical life is 15 to 18 years, but we might be able to get another 4 or 5 years out of it. Versus down east, that's got significant wear and tear. I will tell you that the structure at Talbot, the same kinds of issues at Williams. We've got some climbing events that are, we've had tape together, literally taped together with enough to keep the climbing net going. We have exposed footings, et cetera, et cetera. So that is wear and tear. Little City, because it seems to be wearing a little easier, might last a little longer. So to your question and to your point, certainly as we get going, if we start to assess, I'll use Broadway, for example. Broadway, we may find, wow, Broadway's getting beat up because it's getting used. We do that next versus Little City. So, Stillwater could be the same, Chapin could be the same thing. So, yeah, we can start to better assess. And as we go, as we replace, are there features that, hey, one of you was at such and such a park somewhere and they had this really cool play feature that would be cool to see here. There are natural features that become more prevalent now with play structures, rocks, logs, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, there's some really creative things you could do that's outside that typical composite structure. Hopefully I answered your question kind of along the way, but what we have done when we did this before, try to go to places that had shown the most wear and tear. We were able to couple that with using the Community Development Block Grant funding. We were able to exhaust that first, then we started asking for the capital requests. But that, we're in that cycle again. Play structures, and it's interesting, Hayford, we incorporated a fairly large climbing net over there, which is quite popular. At Fairmount, we included a, they call it expression swing, where you can get in the swing as an adult with a toddler and swing at the same time. That would be popular. Fairmount seems to be that destination park next to Hayford Broadway. I think anecdotally is one of those destination parks because of its proximity. Little City is more of a neighborhood park. Stillwater is more of a neighborhood park.
How was the, I know this is separate, but how was the basketball court holding up at Fairmount?
So the basketball court at Fairmount, we retiled a year ago.
Yeah, just recently, I think, right?
Yeah, a year ago. Interesting how much you lose track of time, the more time goes by you. What 2 years ago was actually 5.
Yeah. That one was pretty recent. Though.
Yeah. Yeah, we retiled that, a couple of years ago. Seemed to be holding up.
Yeah, I see it gets a lot of use.
Yeah, so the court at Fairmount, if you're not familiar, is, they're plastic piles. That was made possible through a gift from one of the neighbors. The original tiles, it was wear and tear. We were able to, and we just missed the warranty. No, we actually got it under the warranty. That's right, we were able to do it with warranty. So we were able to get that replaced. Hayford Park, that basketball court got repaved, part of the paving last fall. We just need to stripe it. And we'll try to pick off some of those half courts that need repaving through the repaving program. Anything else before I kind of move on? So the next list is kind of midterm list. So if you look at the column, we try to keep on the timeline. So the reason you have the midterm project list is we're kind of in that time pattern now. We're currently in the fiscal year 26, which just completed 25. And a lot of these on this list, we're still, we haven't done a whole lot of movement with yet. Let me just go down through quickly. Brownwoods really, we haven't focused there yet. We've already talked about Condesky Extreme Trail. We have not done the multi-use trail study. Haven't done that yet, but there's been a lot of work, as we talked about, happening on the Condesky Extreme Trail. Cole Park is another one. Actually, Cole Park was another one of those play structures that we replaced. Community garden. Everybody around the table is familiar with the community garden. Look at the street, you have the Holman Legal Reserve property. For those of a certain generation, you may know that, the haunted hut's over there. So the community garden, it's much in the same general geography as when we started over there back in 2012. 2011, 2012. Paving the parking lot. Currently at the community garden, we're up to 270 some odd beds over there. We are told it's the largest community garden in the state. So you can see here, there's a number of projects that we were going to actually do the parking lot in this current fiscal year, and we've actually, I believe, postponed that. So that's one area that we haven't done a whole lot with yet. Usually rec area is actually should be Panco Pool Hayford. We've already talked about that. Williams Park, if you're not familiar with them, we reclaimed a tennis court, unused tennis court over there, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, and instead have 3 outdoor pickleball courts over there. And back then it identified and be adding some shade. Davenport Park is where the main monument is, over at the corner of Main and Cedar Streets. Hamlin and Norumbega Parkways, we've kind of talked about already. Stillwater Park over on Howard Street. You can see there what they talked about, that identifies in fiscal year 27. Summit Park, our engineering staff is starting to dabble into a master plan over there. Summit Park is Thomas Hill. So it's primarily the green space that goes from the top of where the standpipe is down to Ohio Street. Within, this may be a little known factor on the table, within Summit Park is a bird net. It's been there for some time. Chapin, pretty straightforward about that.
Is that active or?
We haven't had active for a while. It is some county issues in there that we just haven't been able to resolve. So I have to go back. Essex Woods. So what's interesting about Essex Woods, some of this work has already happened through the efforts of some volunteer groups. So we've been working with the local chapter of the New England Mountain Bike Association, Comstock Region, NEMBA. They have created some beginner and intermediate level mountain bike trails up at Essex Woods that proved quite popular. Essex Woods is where the dog park is located. There is a full court basketball court up there, as well as house center. What we have started doing is working with a consultant on a small level to help us with a management plan for the trails specifically. Our city forestry department is working on an overall management plan, forest management plan for Essex Woods, similar to what we did out to the Roland Perry City Forest. As a matter of fact, one of our park rangers, somebody from forestry was out there today, found quite a large black cherry tree, which is unusual. The birding opportunities at the bottom of Essex Woods are some of the best in the area, if not the state. So working on that management plan. So that might be something we think about later on. And the rest of them at Summit Park and Hamlin, we've already talked about. So for you folks tonight, it's just kind of are we on the right track? Continuing with the plan? Is there something I haven't talked about that you would like us to consider? The timing of this and why we're talking about this tonight. We'll start the budget process here internally, probably sometime in February. So for purposes of this group and seeking some feedback from you all, the timing would work in that we'll have a meeting probably tonight. Among a couple of other things I do want to make sure we talk about before we leave tonight. We can have another discussion in February when we start to put the budget together. If there's a capital project in particular that you didn't see talked about here, something to think about, and something to talk about with play structures, something entirely different.
Is there a missing link between the short term and the midterm? Cause I'm seeing the fiscal year of 23 for the short term.
Let's take a look. Take it down.
And then the midterm, maybe it's just.
So those are near term, so, yeah. So
And
near
then
term list,
the midterm is essentially 26 is what, and 27 and 28, which is explained more closely in the budget, but is there another sheet that has the 24 and the 25 of things that were done in 24 and things were just getting done with the previous, this
so
final?
when I click on a top, that's a near term, I don't apologize. I didn't bring the near term because most of those were dated. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. So what you're seeing here is the entire plan by facility, and then short term, near term, short term.
So short term is 24?
Yep.
Yeah, and this was all based on the
You're missing a page, Mike, missing a page.
plan that was released a couple of years ago, right?
21. So you might have been missing a page, is that what you're saying? So
Well, the
here's-
short term says page 1 of 2 and the back page is 2 of 2, so I think the short term is complete.
Okay.
But it only shows 2023 and then we skip right up to 2026. I guess what I'm asking is there a 2024 and a 2000?
Yeah, it's on the screen, So somewhere along the way, you're right, you missed one. Well, I missed one too.
Is that everything right there?
Yep.
Pretty much?
Yep.
For 24?
Yep. So let's go down through that quickly. You'll see Cascade reference again. You'll see Broad Street reference again. I guess what you're missing is Hayford. So Hayford Park is the playground update, which we did. We go back up here. Nesca Stream Trail, Hamilton we talked about. So it was the bottom section that didn't get included.
Oh, okay, I see now,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
It stops at 23 and then the rest of 24, which is Cascade Park, Broad Street.
Sorry about that.
And then you have a 2025, things that we just got done with.
So somewhere in there, let's make sure they, I didn't miss that as well. So 25 should have started. There's some 25 ones. And I will tell you, she made an effort, so there's 23, 24, and 25 there.
Yeah. That's good.
Yep.
Well, you've got the total for 23, so that's an end placement.
And there's
then
24.
For 24. Yeah. And then is there an end of 25? Because we didn't see anything for 25 yet, I guess. Cascade at 6.
So the one thing we did do that you may not see here is, and I'll make sure to get those to you, but you can see them on the screen.
Is there a second? Is there a fourth page of that one?
I think that's it right there. So the fourth page would be just a line, a total line of the amount, dollar amounts, which I can get over there. I believe that's what the fourth page was, people will knows. So I'm glad you brought that up because it brings up Union Street. So Union Street Rec area included in the last two capital plans, and you'll see in the capital plan were the replacement of the light fixtures we have done. So all three fields, all three softball fields at Union Street, that project was done this fall. Initially, we were gonna do one field at a time. We did an RFP for the first field that came back significantly more than we had budgeted. So we paused the one field, requested and was approved for funding for the next two do the project all at once. By doing that, we save significantly in mobilization costs by doing it all at once. In addition to that, the contractor that was hired out of the proposals that we received was already doing a similar project in Brewer. So we were able to save a little bit from, it was R.L. Todd out of Carroll. We did that project with. So currently at Union Street, all 3 softball fields have new LED fixtures, which should save some electrical costs for us down the line. We also, at the same time last fall, added drainage and resurfaced the infields at Union Street. So we have been fortunate that we were approved for a fair amount of funding to improve things at Union Street. And we kept a couple of the old utility poles. We think we might be able to add some practice lighting. I'm gonna look at Mr. Trott, he's been out there for a few practices today. Add some practice lighting to the soccer lacrosse fields. Either that or add lighting to the new poles. Trying to figure out what's gonna be best for that and cost effective for that. We've been out to Union Street for any sort of activity. Once we open it up in April, right up through the end of October, it's a busy place. It's a busy place. One of the projects you see identified in there is restriping the parking lot and trying to do some of the parking. Reality is we're pretty shoehorned in at Union Street. We use just about every available square foot of space that's available to us. We are surrounded. So the parking lot specifically, it is striped about the best we can stripe it as far as capacity. What we do now out there is try to schedule activities with the parking lot in mind. Saturdays and Sundays out there, whether it's lacrosse, soccer, high school activities, John Batt uses Union Street, both softball in spring, soccer, hockey in the fall. Balance our activity to the capacity of the parking lot. So though there's been some significant, we've been fortunate to be able to be approved for funding as we go in some of these projects. Union Street this past fall was a busy place, activity wise and project wise, between the lights, the infield and the drainage. And it was 3 different contractors doing 3 different things. And I'm only looking at you, you can appreciate what.
A lot of use out there, a lot of use.
You know, fall ball game out there for sluggers and the place was packed.
Yep. Yep.
And I didn't like having to walk to the field.
No, it really is. I mean, we've made, the city has made a good significant investment out there in the last few years. The new building, the lights, the earthwork I just talked to you about. It's a busy place. It's really our only outdoor sport facility available. The number of groups that make use of it. We have a homeschool group that's out there on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. I believe it's Tuesday and Thursday mornings. And it's easily 150 to 200 school age kids out there doing different things. It's busy. So between what I've shared with you in a hard copy and what I missed and what we have here on the screen, I guess the message to you tonight is staff is, we've made this a very active document for us. And back to how I started earlier, in the listing you have from in our capital project in our budget, we also balance that with equipment needs that we have. This does not include the golf course. The golf course follows an enterprise fund. I will tell you that the golf course, we've been focusing on sand traps and bunkers on the Kelly 9. That was one of the projects that we focused on our capital plan for that. Then probably in the neighborhood of 20 years, year 26, probably in the neighborhood of 20 years since we did anything with the bunkers on the Kelly 9. And so it was time. So we dedicate some funding in the golf course to start working on that. Rob can share that with you. When he's here next time with you, but we started that last fall. It's a labor intensive work. The sand is here, so we could start working on it as long as weather permitted this past fall, and we can pick it back up in the spring. It was done. The Kelly 9 gets used extensively, and that's where we put folks. We have tournaments, we have to close the 18. Folks go on the Kelly 9.
You want to talk a little bit about Sawyer Arena recent?
Again, the only other thing that you probably don't see on here, recall that the feasibility studies that we did for both Sawyer and the Park and Rec Center came from this original master plan. That was one of the first projects we tackled. And as I think I shared with you folks, council in the orientation, and I'll be re-engaging with council about coming back with a question about replacing both Park and Rec Center and Sawyer Arena. The need continues to grow. Need continues to grow in both facilities. The boiler's still leaking. We're trying to figure that out. We just took a barn down at Parks and Rec, and at Sawyer, we went to start the chiller back in October. We discovered there was significant damage to the chiller. The chiller is obviously the refrigeration that creates the ice. The chiller is the original unit when Sawyer Arena was first put together by then Bangor Youth Hockey. And it's been the same since essentially the arena opened 30 years ago. Those parts you don't just go and get off the shelf. So the company that we use to maintain the chiller for us gave us an estimate to replace the coils that circulates the glycol to freeze the ice. In the meantime, we had to open Sawyer Arena. We have youth hockey group, regional youth hockey group, Main Junior Black Bears, as well as Bangor High School, John Babs High School, and Hammond Academy use it, as well as our own learner skate program. So we have rented a chiller. Yes, you can rent them for a nominal fee. That is sitting out behind Sawyer Arena now and has been since we opened. All of this will be covered by our insurance. So that is good news. So if you go behind Sawyer Arena, you'll see on the flatbed truck, a rental chiller. We, all in all, I think we were 2.5 weeks delayed opening, if I remember right. Sawyer Arena, another busy place. Again, the 3 high schools. And the co-oping of Bangor and Brewer this past year didn't necessarily change our rental demand. Hammond Academy primarily uses ice early in the morning, and then John Babs and Twin City come in the afternoon. Drew Black Bears after that. Our learner skate program is full and was a wait list for our first session. 70 plus skaters in that. We have, and so we're typically there on a regular night until 9, 10 o'clock at night. 7 days a week. 7 days a week. Public skating, we have a stick and puck group that comes in at 11 in the mornings, then a public skating after that, and then we open it up for dedicated figure skating after the public skating, and then the high schools. So yes, we've been on a rental chiller. The good news is the parts have been here. Train, which is the company that's going to make the repairs, has started to make the repairs. We've been out there in the last couple of weeks. We had to trim some trees so they could crane some pieces onto the chiller. As far as investments at Sawyer Arena, which is outside of this, we made some significant repairs to the mat. One of the last things that the contractor did when they left after repairing the mat, no guarantees how long that lasts. So we tried what we can to mitigate dasher boards leaning. Typically about this time each year, they start to lean into the bleachers. hasn't been that significant yet.
Fun fact for the new members, I don't know if you guys knew, but the ice is actually on top of sand. There's no concrete floor.
No, that's a good point. It is a sand floor. What typically takes us 2 weeks to build the ice from scratch to opening, we're able to condense in about a week to get going as quickly as we could. That's been kind of, so by doing that, we kind of have to layer along the way between getting the ice set up, getting to a point where we can paint it, which we do. We paint the ice white, and then we paint the lines. So far, so good. So far, so good. It's a 30+ year facility operating on 20-year equipment. In a nutshell. And I'm not sharing anything with you that we haven't shared before. So recall for this group, and amongst all of this is the report that was produced by the Council Appointed Special Committee back in the summer. We had some discussions with council in the fall about a ballot question. We're gonna come back with that discussion.
Is the goal still to try to get something on the June?
That would be our goal. Yes, that would be our goal. Obviously, that's all for the council to decide.
Yeah.
That would be our goal. And for this group, again, if you've been in either building, we do the absolute best we can with each facility. If you haven't been to Parks and Rec lately, we took the wooden barn down. We're not gonna replace it. Our plan would be to, and actually that is removal. It's in that capital plan you have there in front of you. We did quite well with that. So that project should be well within what we budgeted. What's left to do is some finish work with some loam and seating, which is make a green space for kids to use in Kids Cave, our childcare program. And we tried to button up the end as best we could. Trying to figure out the logic of how that was attached to that building, we stopped doing months ago. It was an interesting process to get it down. So back to all of this, you want to let it sit for a while and come back with some feedback in February, that's fine too. We tried to have these project discussions with you folks are out there. I'll throw it out there because I know we talked about, and I think it was identified in this master plan at some point, some sort of city space or amenity out in Judson Heights. That we keep going to that. We had a plan to create kind of a nature walk, green space plan out there. And hopefully we can make that happen.
Was that on the short term or I remember seeing it at one point. That's why I was looking for it actually.
Yeah, no, I think it was identified as recommendations.
Supplemental
recommendation to do something out of Judson Heights. Other than that, you asked about the managed plan city forest. That might have, I think that happened about the same time as this. And again, we're now working on Essex Woods, taking a little different tact. We'll be using contractor for the trails themselves in our city forestry department. We're working with, we have one of our park rangers who comes from a forestry conservation law background. So between two of them, they'll be working on that.
What's the PAL Center for 2029, 840,000?
So that number is placed there to rehabilitate or do we do away with the PAL Center? So that is essentially a placeholder there for now. The PAL Center building, which is the building up at Essex Woods, there's some opportunity there that candidly we've struggled to program up there. Currently, the Maine Academy for Modern Music utilizes that building on the weekends. We utilized it on hit or miss basis when AmeriCorps teams have been here. We house the AmeriCorps team there. The dog park folks have used it from time to time for activities, but That building hasn't been really consistently programmed since Police Athletic League did that quite a few years ago. Police Athletic League has since dissolved, but we keep the building. We keep it power on, water on, heated, because the modern music youth use that every Saturday for rehearsals, etc. Good starting point. I mean, again, we will continue to utilize this facility master plan. Back to the city forest management plan, we have struggled candidly with trying to dedicate staff and time and resource to some of those items. One thing I will tell you that we just did our third one. And it's for the maintenance of vegetation out there. And it's a pretty cool program for us. We do wreath making classes. So the wreath making classes that we do came out of that management plan. Staff will go out and clip the greenery from the city forest to use for the wreath making class. Forestry has a contractor out there right now, working along the roads to cut back the vegetation along the roads. There's two things. It helps with the overall health of the vegetation and forestry out there, and it helps with wildfire mitigation, which is that close to the roads. So that's what's going on out there right now. So if you hear about a contractor out there cutting things, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. At some point, we'll talk with you folks about some further mitigation with selective cutting of some undergrowth out there to help the overall health of the city forest. That management plan has been valuable for us as far as identifying culvert replacements, trail rehab. We've tried to use AmeriCorps teams when they've been here. We've tried to accomplish that with our rangers and part of maintenance staff, with assistance from Public Works, and amongst the other things that go on.
I was just looking, because I've been going out there for 25 years. I was looking at some photos that I took in like 2000, 2001. And the Arboretum, it's amazing how much that grew.
Yeah. The Arboretum is one place that I'm gonna call it harvesting, but it's a misnomer in that we're not out there harvesting for timber. We're out there harvesting for the health of the property more than anything else. We've got some folks now on staff who will do a real nice job of messaging that. And the management plan talks about that. The management plan describes that. That city forest is a valuable, unique amenity that not many municipalities have available to them to make sure that we are keeping it as healthy as we can for long term. Are we on the right track so far? I mean, what you all see, is it something we're blatantly missing?
I just have a question, Tracy, about the Soy Arena. So the surrounding towns, it's Hamden, Brewer, that use it, or it's kids from all over pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right, yeah. And is there an issue with showers there too, or is that?
So the issue is the number of locker rooms. So, well, I will tell you that if you were there, you knew we had an issue with the public side of the restrooms. We had a bit of a backup last couple of days. So I don't know if that's
Okay, somebody mentioned.
yeah. So we got that resolved. The showers, the locker rooms, there are 6 of them along the 13th Street side. And staff does. If you've ever had kids that played hockey over there, it's a bit of a Jenga puzzle to try and make sure that you align locker rooms as best you can between games and between practices. In addition to that, with co-ed hockey teams providing the appropriate space to accommodate co-ed teams. So yeah, you're absolutely, yes, there is an issue with locker rooms and the lack of them. Hence why when we do the feasibility study, that was one of the things that was identified, is we need more locker rooms. And then to answer the shower specifically, when that expansion was done in 2003, we worked with the funding we had, the space we had, showers specifically. They share, each locker set of 2 shares a shower. I remember right. Good question.
I'm curious about the robotic mowers.
So product out there now essentially is it's robotic mower. It's GPS coordinated. The theory is that you can leave them in a space, they're battery operated, you geofence it, and it runs itself.
It would be just like the automated striper.
Yeah, same kind of concept. So we put it in there and it's kind of aligns with some of the other things that the city is trying to do with climate action. As far as priority, we had some other things that had a little higher priority, so we pushed it out to another year. Best use probably would be on the athletic field or a flat surface such as Little City, for example. Little City is a fairly flat space, green space that could be easily geofenced. Stillwater Park might be a little too much. Perhaps Chapin, something like that. Again, we'll keep picking from this. Want to make sure that this group had a chance to weigh in if you wanted to. We'll start a budget process probably in February. That's a typical timeline. They'll need to be in front of council by April. So come February, if you, or in the meantime, think, hey, update for or you staff think about your capital plan. We felt like at the time that this master plan did a good job of laying out a timeline. As I said, the amounts, they're a little stale for sure. I mean, you're in that business. I mean, things keep going up all the time. So
How do you treat supplemental allocation? Meaning, you're forecasting 3 years out. God only knows what some of these prices might turn into. Is it a reallocation?
Master plan or?
Well, you've got your budget and you're looking at an expense from 3 years from now.
Mhm.
How do you pull, like, some of the other supplemental things that aren't necessarily on the short term or the midterm or that you're adding because of our input or community input or whatever, or an overage in the originally quoted price that's now, like, how does that allocate from the city?
It kind of. So are you asking, so for example, if I picked a project out of here that had projected cost of, I'm gonna look at this, utility and facility improvements. Cascade, which is this third one down in the short term, and it has a projected cost of $260,000. Is your question, how do we make that a realistic number in a capital plan? So it really depends on the project. So I'll take that one, for example. So utility and facility improvements, that's kind of what engineering is working on now. So currently funded is an engineering design plan for the improvements at Cascade. So that will give us an updated number on things like circulation, repairing the pool, changing the electrical. So that could go from 260 to 280, for example. Play structure. If a play structure identified in this plan as 75,000, but now right now we're in the neighborhood of 235,000 to replace both the structure and the swings at Williams. That's a contact with the playground rep. So it depends on if we can find a consultant, get feedback from a contractor. Hey, if we want to do 500 feet of new trail along the Cascade Stream Trail, what does that look like realistically for cost?
Does that affect whether you might want to move something up in case it gets?
Could or
more
could
expensive?
not, so part of the budget discussion will be, okay, what can we, as a department, what can we, what really do we need to do now versus what could we do in 27? The lights, for example, so the lights at Union Street. The lights at Union Street, as I shared with you, we were gonna do one field at a time. We have budgeted $300,000 to do that for the next 3 years. That estimate was based on an estimate we had received a year or two, a year and a half out from that. So we did the RFPs for field one at Union Street, came in over budget. So we stopped. And made a decision to do funding for all three. In the meantime, went to the bidders on the original project. If you were to do this all at once, would your number be the same or would it be different? Indeed, it came back different because of the mobilization savings. So we were able to get all three of them done using funding that we had been approved for in 1 year, adding funding we were approved for following year, complete the entire project. Is that making sense at all as I go? So is there a definitive policy logic approach to all of the projects as far as calculating additional costs? Not necessarily. Each project brings with it different dynamics. Try to come up with the best educated estimate at the time we do our capital requests.
Cause I know that
Sometimes we're off. I'll give you another example, boiler, I just finished the boiler replacement. So in consulting with our contractor, we thought the boiler replacement would be X, it was more than X. Now we have to make a determination what we're gonna do next.
So the feasibility master plan is a guide and the capital improvement request is the actual.
Yes.
Even though you have future forecasts, 27 and 28, that doesn't become a real number until you become that fiscal year. In moving the needle with our group or community outreach or changes from the comprehensive plan would have to make it on to the capital improvement plan for
Right.
2026, which is being voted on
We're in 26 right now,
next month.
so. I get where you're going, and I'll come back to you. So we're in fiscal year 26 now, so we'll start the FY 27 process internally here in February to be presented finally to council for their consideration in April. From that timeline, council then have an opportunity to meet with us as departments to go through our requests. And through from April until council typically has a first reading of the budget in June, they'll be back and forth about.
So fiscal doesn't match calendar.
Oh,
Your master is based upon calendar
yes.
expectation.
The,
Your
you'll see that she also identified fiscal year, so that second column that says FY, that's
Mhm.
fiscal year. That's fiscal year. And there was some consideration that the discussion we had with the consultant, yeah, there are some projects that they knew were gonna be expensive, that it's a guide. It's a guide, been a guide for us, very, very active guide for us. Because for us, as staff, and hopefully for you all, it laid out a pretty definitive and pretty clear objective guideline for us to continue to follow going forward. Do we get them all in line with that? No, I think we shared with you some of the things we kind of pushed off. Because for us, some of these other projects seem to make more sense to focus on first. Cascade Park, the feasibility study. But some other things we might have pushed out. The feasibility study was one of the first things we did from this master plan.
So just to be clear, this capital improvement request,
That's what's budgeted right now.
this is already approved.
Yes, yep.
So when, I guess my question is, when's the next cycle? If you were saying what,
We're gonna start in February for fiscal year 27. The fiscal year is July 1 to June 30.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that I remember when the first estimate came out for the light replacement at Mansfield, it was $225,000.
So, yeah, no, that's a great example. So, the replacement of the lights at Mansfield Stadium, is currently, we have funding bill currently for that, so we'll have to do an RFP for that. That estimate was based on a updated estimate from a lighting company. So they will update that number, and they've been to Mansfield before. It'll be the same with Mansfield. Will be a little easier in that we can utilize the current masts poles. It'll start to be retrofitting the lights at the top of those poles. So that'll help. I answered your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sometimes I get,
I was just curious,
Down,
like,
leaving down.
you're asking for feedback, like when, if there is any to make amendments to or adjustments, like what is that timeline? Like, are we talking about it 3 months prior or 2 months prior, 1 month prior before any actionable
what we tried,
items are on the request?
we tried
You know.
to do, including, it was important, we felt to have this discussion with you all. To try to time it up as best we could around your meeting schedule to align with the process.
Mhm.
So going back to a process that we mentioned that we use for the budget process for the city, getting feedback from you all of anything that we should at least try to include in a capital request to council. You essentially have this meeting tonight in February before we really need to start to get a good handle on this in March.
For the following year,
This year.
this one is
This one, yeah.
in place, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And the placeholders you see for 27, 28, 29, 30 are our best estimates at the time we put that together.
Right.
Ryan's question earlier about the lights in Mansfield is a prime example. That number has changed. Because we were including that.
And this is basically a schedule of cost over and above our normal operating
Yes.
procedure.
Yes.
Cost
Yeah.
to operate, yeah.
There's an operating budget. This is capital request. Every department will have.
Thank you.
You're gonna thoroughly enjoy the process of the grade.
So I have a question on the short term, the Dakin pool. So the splash pad, that's been done. So right?
No, so it's a good question for clarification. So remember in this plan that was done in 21, they identified the possibility of putting a splash pad over there. Since that time, we have met with the Friends of Dakin.
Yeah.
The funding that they have available, and after talking with them a little bit, we're not structured right now to really, and Dakin, the space of Dakin really doesn't allow for a great splash pad like you can see on Davis Road. So what we're going with there is perhaps a water feature, maybe adding a play feature in the green space over there.
And that would be funded by the.
Yeah.
Friends of Dakin
Yeah.
pool. Okay. Okay.
So they are disbanded, going to disband.
Going to, yeah, I think they did some fundraising at least a year ago. The county matched what they had with some ARPA funding, as I understand it. So they got a timeline for that. We've met with them a couple of times, what's left of the group, giving them some amenity ideas. Again, adding perhaps some shade, a small water feature, a play feature over there, and trying to fit within what they have for funding left. And if it needs a water feature, does that easily incorporate into our current plumbing, et cetera?
Anything else?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
I noticed on some of these, which is not surprising, Investigate Trail. You added the lighting, had some issues, you mentioned some misuse in that area, Second Street Park. Some long-term loitering and drug use, obviously, we've had a lot of conversations on the council related to the unsheltered population. How much of an issue is that on these parks, and how much has that added to your kind of workload?
So recall council approved our park ranger program during the FY 24. mentioned that because that has helped. It's given us an opportunity to dedicate staff to patrolling all of our city parks. So to answer your question about trails specifically, that's part of their regular routine. The lighting, I feel like, has helped, and I know that it's helped. In addition to the lighting on the trail, we added a light to the bridge itself. We repurposed lights from the Orr Bridge between Merchants Plaza and Camden National. That's what's on the pedestrian bridge now. So certainly not as much of a challenge along the Condescate Stream Trail as it once was. Certainly the Rangers dedicated a fair amount of time to that. And you all have talked about that at your council meeting. So the feedback that we have had received, and I will use the Rotary feedback specifically, seems to be that the improvements we have made down there thus far has indeed improved the conditions down there. We have issues from time to time. We do. By having the park ranger program, we're able to dispatch the rangers and deal with that as we need to. Additionally, we will change up the ranger schedule to be later at night so that they can go down along the trail later in the evening to ensure that park hours are being observed. That answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many rangers are there?
We have one permanent year-round lead ranger and funding for up to 2 seasonal rangers. So currently, the only day we don't have ranger coverage right now, our seasonal ranger has been staying on. You'll see a ranger every day but Saturday.
It's not 24 hours.
No, it's primarily during the day right now, but as I said, we'll adjust schedule if needed. In addition to that, the rangers help us or help with event coverage. We have events on the waterfront or downtown. So that's been helpful as well. In addition to that, they'll make regular rounds amongst trail and open spaces to monitor some of the activity that you asked about a minute ago. They were just at Essex Woods today, as a matter of fact, and then made a trip to the city forest as well. Anything else? Anything else? You're in charge. If I may, just a couple of things we'd like to discuss with you next month. We can pick up any loose ends from this if there is. We'd like to chat with you about annual fees for the seasonal food trucks, as well as our docking fees. We're starting to get into the renewal period for the food trucks. So we'd like to discuss those fees with you next month.
That went really well last year, right?
Yeah, no, the food trucks, for those around the table who may not know, we manage the food truck, seasonal food vendors on the waterfront. We are making some slight improvements down there with electrical connections. We set them up in the large parking lots along the waterfront. And we had an opportunity for up to 8 down there.
Have we ever had food trucks for the food base?
Not for a number of years. Years ago, there used to be food trucks that were set up in Nestle Plaza, where most of our takeout now is down behind the Sea Dog. We really haven't had food trucks with canoe race for a number of years. If there's anything else we should have for next month, let me know, but I do want to at least chat. We do want to chat with you about the fees for the food trucks. And just the whole concept of that, and just review with you what we do down there. We think we're on the right track, but sometimes another set of eyes and ears doesn't help. Does help, doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt, does help.
This doesn't help at all.
Yeah.
I know the first one's always a long one, so we've run over, but any update on the rec center stuff in terms of like, what's the next step?
So we alluded to a little earlier, our next steps come back to council to discuss again the ballot question.
And that's a discussion to see if it gets on the ballot.
Yes. Council has to approve it going to, that's by ordinance and by statute, so. To kind of thumbnail that back for you, there are two timelines that we have to adhere to. There's a state timeline to approve the language and the question, and then there's a city timeline to complete the state timeline and get it back. And then the number of days to get notification out. When we tried to do this in the fall, admittedly, it was a tight timeline. The special report continues, I have copies here, if somebody wants to take them with you, hasn't changed. We had some discussion with council at the time about different conditions and doing different things. But we're gonna come back to council and have the discussion again and try and get it on June ballot.
So when is that deadline?
I don't know off the top of my head, I don't know the number of days. I know we were up against a pretty tight timeline to get it done in the fall. Between the completion of the submittal of the report to council and then trying to navigate the timelines.
And will you be revising that?
That'll be discussion we'll have with you all. That'll be discussion, and I say you all, with council.
Yeah,
That special report was, the committee presented it to council back at the time in July, was accepted. In the meantime, there was discussion, we had it during workshop, so all of that will come back, all of that will come back.
different council now, so.
Yep. You have a question?
About like private donors to a facility like that, is that something you pursue after it's been approved?
Yeah, I think, yeah, to answer, as best I can tonight, Suzanne, I think that would be the time to pursue that, once it gets on the, what are we looking for? I think there's an opportunity for all of that.
Yeah.
It'll also give staff some time to revise any sort of bonding commitments the city would need to make, and depending on how that would work, so we've got some work to do still before we come to the council to have the discussion again, and all of that can be on the table. All of that can be on the
I
table.
guess I'm a little confused now. Would the ballot question be on a specific, on a bond, or would it
Yes.
just be, okay?
Would the citizens approve bonding up to? Without getting too deep in the weeds about what an actual.
Okay, so,
Ultimately, that's gonna be up to council. That's gonna be up to council how that's all.
So like up to a certain
Yeah.
amount, but you would still go for,
Still be an opportunity to go for that kind of fund. And then the citizens still need to get moving on. As I said, the need is still there, and then we as staff keep pushing the initiative. In all candor, we're on borrowed time.
So it's amazing you've been able to do what you've done with the facility that you currently have, to be truthful. Pretty amazing, it's pretty amazing.
Would it be prudent to have a tour?
Of either one,
Yeah.
I would, if you want, absolutely, if you wanna come down, let us know. Happy to take you around if you haven't been in either
Yeah,
place.
just an individual
Yep,
thing,
yep.
not necessarily all committee.
Yep. We've had, there is a desire to have these meetings here so we can do this, but, yeah, if anybody wants to come down, let us know on either place. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Because it's very much needed.
The best case scenario, like this moves forward, gets on the valley, gets approved, all that, like best case scenario, like how quickly would a new facility happen? Like roughly, like, do you think?
So without putting a definitive 3 years, 2 years, 5 years, once that if indeed the ballot question is approved by the voters, the first step is to finalize engineering design costs. Recall, we've identified Griffin Road as that location, so we're gonna keep with that location until it's told differently. They're gonna start with earthwork and construction and all of that process. 3 years, 4 years.
I was gonna say, I mean, it's still a ways out and it's like, that building is crumbling as we speak.
Right.
There's only so much bubble gum and duct tape.
Yeah, I recently visited, I haven't been to Sawyer Arena in a while, but I visited the rec building a few months ago, and yeah,
We do make the best of what we've got.
It's eye-opening, eye-popping when you see the
Yeah.
condition of some of these ones, yeah.
Right. We don't have anything else, Chair.